sarcasm waiting for you. I'm willing to trade my soul for a bit of your charm. Forever young, or am I faking? On the tip of my tongue, there's a sarcasm waiting for you. I'm willing to trade my soul for a bit of your charm. There's no way I'll fade into oblivion, 'cause I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. There's mud on the floor, disparate people trying to get through the door, although the room's already crowded. But I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. Zeros, everybody's trying to be heroes, when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. And keep trying again. I'll keep shining over you all. With your wings entwining, you better face the fall. Zero, everybody's trying to be heroes, when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. Are you okay? I'm not that sure. Forever young, or am I faking? On the tip of my tongue, there's a sarcasm waiting for you. I'm willing to trade my soul for a bit of your charm. There's no way I'll fade into oblivion, 'cause I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. There's mud on the floor, disparate people trying to get through the door, although the room's already crowded. But I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. See keep trying to give.
Good to be up here filling in for Kyle. Kyle, we miss you, but feeling good, Alex. So this is going to be one of the newer setups we're trying in this league. We're going to go away a little bit from the iRacing fixed setups and try a little bit of just a looser setup. Maybe try to get these cars a little bit more spread out here under green. Maybe try to get that tightness feeling in the Cup car kind of out of the way. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds here as we go through this event here tonight.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot throughout practice. These guys really struggle once they get out towards the lead to stay out front. So it made a lot of passes for the lead and a lot of side by side racing. So I'm excited for what's going to happen tonight. All right, as we get the pace car going, let's get down the grid order. Right on the pole position is going to be the number 39 of Zachary Henry, and to his outside, the number 23 of Jacob Bransky.
And then followed in row two on the inside, Jacob Manning in the one car. And then on his outside, Nathan Nicholson in the 47.
Right in that fifth position is the 27 of William Barbagelata, and right to his outside is the 17 of Hunter Madalinas.
Right in the next row on the inside, it's Elliott Henderson, three-time GLTS champion, followed by Austin Moore, his teammate, on the outside in eighth.
Following them, the 86 of Brandon Wright will start on the inside of the number 11 of Christopher Heller, last year's champion.
And right behind him, last week's winner at Iowa, Ty Aiken in that 71, and then Lewis Woodall in the 013, who's actually been putting together some pretty decent runs lately in Great Lakes.
And rounding out our 14 car field here tonight will be the 26 of Scott Stewart and the number 5 of Matthew Daniels. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got one more lap to head around this racetrack. Before we get started, Brandon, how do you feel guys are going to have to handle this restart? Are they going to go aggressive for track position or try and conserve their tires early on?
Yeah, I think with this little bit of a different setup, Alex, I think you're going to have to be cognizant of those right rears, or especially the right and left rears. I think if you're sliding too much off these corners, you might not feel it in the first 10 laps, but when you get to 25 laps in this run, if you're really killing those rears, it's going to be so difficult to put down the power on this long run. I think you still have to be aggressive, but you have to be cognizant. You can't be sliding and hearing those tires screech when you're coming off these corners.
As well, you also have to think about lane choice around this racetrack, as a bit of progressive banking means that multiple lanes here tonight have good pace, both the bottom lane and that second lane just above it. Now, Brandon, what lane would you prefer to be in around these corners?
Yeah, that's a good question, Alex. Definitely in turn one and two, I would not want to run totally on the bottom. There's kind of a couple bumps down there. I feel like in this Cup car, you'll especially feel it just because of how low it is to the ground with all the downforce and just the ride height simply. I think you want to maybe be about a lane up, not totally in the middle, but not all the way on the bottom. I think that's going to be the fast way around, and maybe as we progress on a run, maybe even going a little bit higher than that, just to keep the RPMs up in these Cup cars, especially when you're in the draft.
Yeah, that high downforce is going to mean it's going to be really hard to gain some speed once these cars lose any of it. All right, the pace car is going to be turning off at turn 4. We're going to be heading green. We'll see the start that Zachary Henry gets. We'll see if he jumps the field or tries to stay with it. Draft's going to be important. And he's getting ready. Green flag is out. Zachary Henry gets a jump. He's going to clear Jacob Bransky on the outside. Bransky's going to pull to the inside. They're going to be racing side by side for the 3rd position between Jacob Manning and Nathan Nicholson. Nathan Nicholson's going to try and hold him around the outside, but the bottom lane has a big advantage on these initial starts. He's going to lose the spot to Manning. Is going to have to try and battle Barbagelata to get back in line. Bottom line's going to be quick at this initial start, so these guys are going to have to watch out.
Yeah, no question. There looks like guys are definitely going to try to be aggressive on that track position. You can see Elliott right there trying to follow Barb. Looks like Nicholson's holding tight up there on the outside. Yeah, I mean, these guys definitely got to be aggressive here, but I think the question is going to be how aggressive do you want to be? I still think these guys are going to pay the price if they kill the rears too much with this looser setup that we've created for this race.
Yeah, I just saw our leader there get really loose right in the center of turns 1 and 2 as William Barbagelata tries to pull side by side for the 3rd position. Jacob Manning, he wants the spots early. After starting in the 5th position, he's already moved his way up to 3rd. Ooh, a little bit craziness in the back. Who is that? Brandon White really loose on the apron, almost wrecked the field. Racing side by side with Elliott. They're going to keep it going. It's 3 wide as they start to single file out to the front.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. Just, being too aggressive early, you do that a couple too many times, and you're going to pay the price in about 10 laps. So we can see right there, we can see Bransky now going for the lead, actually. Look at him diving down that 23 car. He's hungry. He's coming off that win at Michigan now in the trucks. He's got something to say, I think, here, Alex.
Yeah, Jacob Bransky, very strong driver in this series, takes the lead out early. Typically in this series, Zachary Henry, great qualifier, but seems to struggle a little bit on long run pace. We'll see if that changes tonight as Jacob Bransky takes the lead on him now. He'll have to tuck in behind him or possibly fight him back for that position.
And there's Barb. He's up a couple spots like we talked about. He's been one who's been not afraid at all to dive down to that bottom and get some spots. Let's keep our eyes on him too and see maybe if he can get up there and run with these guys in the lead, see if he can't pick off some time as we go along here on these next couple laps.
Right at the moment, I'm actually looking at Ty Aiken, who went from the 11th position already up to the 5th position in just 5 laps. He's made a lot of progress already, clear of both Elliott Henderson and Nicholson, and is trying to run down Jacob Manning and catch up to this front pack. He's doing a great job since the initial start of the race.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, Alex, I'll tell you what, there's been no question that Ty Aiken's got talent. I think everybody in this league knows he does. I think sometimes with Ty is just a little bit of, aggressive, but I'm telling you, last week he ran a tremendous race, and if he can really put it all together, I think he's going to become a fantastic driver in this series.
Yeah, with incredible pressure too as well at the end of the race from Elliott Henderson, who had so much better tires than him right at the finish, and just narrowly held on for that win. That's got to be a great confidence booster, would it, Brandon?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what he needed. They talk in real life, it was Chase Elliott who was always so close and, he could never get it done. And then he got it done and then he started winning more often. Then he became a champion. I really think Iowa is a building block for Ty that's going to just propel him into multiple wins now in the Great Lakes Series.
Well, the drivers now are starting to line up single file, just keep their long run pace in check as nobody's really going for any aggressive positions. Some of the first battling is happening really in the back. As I say that, I look back and they start to single file out, but there's a big group in the back here with a long gap in front of Christopher Heller down in the 8th position right now. There's a massive gap between him and Elliott Henderson. I'm curious as to whether or not this is part of the strategy, or maybe he's just got a really bad start and just hasn't been able to catch back up without that drafting assistance.
Yeah, you know what, and it might be a factor of both, right? He might have been just trying to take it easy with this loose setup, but because of that, now he finds himself back too far, and I think still with this package, even though it's a looser setup, right, these cars are still very aero dependent. So if he doesn't have a tow, and the 4 or 5 guys in front of him do, the lap times are obviously going to be faster because of the straightaway speed with the guys in front of them. So I think that's what this second pack is dealing with. They're just a little bit too far back, but not saying they can't make it up over the course of this run.
Yeah, and within that pack as well, right at the back of it, right at the moment, was Brandon White, who earlier in the race narrowly spun out right at the initial start, and he immediately fell to the back and just has been struggling a little bit to gain some positions back. It's really a big problem once you slip the tires even once with these really loose setups. It just doesn't seem to want to comply with you the rest of the run unless if you really back up your pace. Have you found that to be the same with you, Brandon?
Yeah, and I feel like that's a good point. And sometimes when you make those aggressive skids with the tires, it is very important just based off the platform we're on. It's very tire cognizant, so it's very important to keep the temperatures down on the tires. This sim, and just like real life, is very temperature dependent on the tires. So it might not be dependent on how many laps you have on the tires, but if you've overheated them very early, you're only going to hurt yourself more over the course of the run. So it's important to kind of just take it easy after those couple moments you have, and just kind of find your rhythm back, and then maybe try to push a little bit harder again.
I'm watching a good battle develop here around the 5th, 6th, 7th position. Nathan Nicholson tried to make a pass on Jacob Manning and wasn't able to get past him. And then once Manning held him off, he really couldn't get back in line, and Elliott got around him too. So that's a position he lost from where he initially was. That's kind of the risk of passing around here. You can't seem to really make up positions, but I see a position being made up front. William Barbagelata to the outside of Zachary Henry for the 2nd position. Now, this is what we're talking about. It seems to be that if you get a big enough of a run and you get to that outside, it seems to be easier to pass that way.
Yeah, and some things just stay consistent even with the different setup. And that really is what this type of package really does benefit the most, right? It's patience and knowing when to make your move. And clearly, William Barbagelata right now is on top of his game, picking his spots, and he's all the way up to the 2nd spot from 5th. And it doesn't look like he's slowing down either. I think he wants to catch Bransky here.
Yeah, but William Barbagelata making some great moves alongside Taikin, who also gained a lot of position since the start of the race. I'll be interested to see what those two will be able to do, but they got Bransky out in front of them, who's going to be a really tough contender to get by. He really is a strong driver, especially while leading.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't count out guys like Jake Manning or Elliott Henderson. They're the last time by, they're in the 5s and on the 10th meter, and Bransky, our race leader, was in the 0.7s. So maybe these guys back in this pack right here working together, the 1 and the 37, maybe they have some pace, and maybe they were just saving. We'll find out here in about 10 laps, Alex.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make a big difference and see who really has some tire left on. It could really be a matter of trickery. You think the guys out front might be burning their stuff when they're not, or maybe they look like they're running clean, but possibly they're getting a little loose and burning it off more than we think, and the guys in the back are just keeping it calm and steady and using the draft. It's really interesting to try and see where guys go with this package. Just this big draft makes such a difference in how these guys handle their longer runs.
And I think that's why I'm a big fan and advocate of this league changing out the setups a little bit. Instead of just going from those default setups, which by no means are bad. I think iRacing does a great job at making setups very available for fixed setups for anybody to race, but just tweaking it enough to, kind of create that mind game that you just spoke of, and add that extra element of, okay, how am I running versus my competition? It's not about just racing the other guys now, right? It's about racing the track with this. How am I doing on my car? Is my car going to, appreciate what I've done in these first 5 laps, 10 laps, 15 laps, 20 laps from now? And I think it's that unknown that we're seeing right now. We tried this at Legacy, Texas. It's stuff like that I think is just adding that extra element that's going to really reward the driver, even in a package with such high downforce and horsepower taken out.
Well, I noticed something get real tight coming off turn 4 between Elliott Henderson and Jacob Manning. Elliott almost got into the side of Jacob. He's going to be able to clear him. He got a great run on the bottom and managed to get around him using that bottom lane. So it seems like Elliott saved a little bit, because typically on even tire, it's really hard to pass on that bottom lane.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Obviously, we saw Barb making moves early in the run, but if you're making moves on the bottom now in the run right now, as you can see, it looks like Zach Henry is fighting back on the bottom right here. Speaking of that bottom lane, he wants to try it too. But if you're really able to make that move now into the run, it's probably proving that you've done something right. So if you have the ability to do that in this type of package, no matter what type of setup you're running, as Zach Henry looks like is going to clear Barb, you're clearly doing something right. And look at Ty Aiken right now. He's looking to the inside of Barb as well down the front stretch. Man, where'd he come from?
Aiken also with some fantastic long run pace here. He drove up a lot of positions early. That was close between Barbagelata and Henry. But he drove up a lot of positions early. Possibly there was a chance he burned tire, but he's showing now that he really didn't. It seems to be that win seems to have changed his mindset a lot. He just seems to have much better pace than he had. Bit of contact. Oh, he hit William Barbagelata in the center of the corner. They're both going to save it. No wreck. But that's going to really hurt Barbagelata, knock him back 3-4 positions.
Yeah, just all that momentum you just lose from just stepping out of the throttle for just that little, Alex, is how much it takes to just lose 3-4 spots down one straightaway. But man, though, Ty Aiken, though, still, I mean, I know he got a little bit tight there, but he is definitely shot out of a cannon. And because they were racing side by side, Elliott, Jacob, and, even Nicholson are now right in the picture with these guys. So you can see all that kind of factor in as well.
Yeah, I found that battling really gave Bransky a bit of a gap. I'm a bit concerned now. He's got such a big gap that Henry, with his longer run pace, might actually be able to get a big enough run on him if he times this right to possibly try and pass for the lead. But at the same time, about the same gap behind him is Ty Aiken, who just made a very big move on William Barbagelata. So who's to say he won't also make it on Henry? So these guys are definitely watching out for wherever these runs are going to be coming from.
Yeah, no question. And it looks like is that Barb trying up maybe a lane up there? So he's trying that out on Nicholson. Maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe he's trying to get a run down the straightaway here. Might not be the worst call. I know in real life, if you watched the race last weekend, you saw a couple guys try to do that. Chase Elliott was one of them there towards the end, battling Denny Hamlin. The idea is you keep the RPMs off the corner and you get a whole toe of a straightaway. That's how you set up a pass. Obviously, it didn't work for Barb there, but that is kind of more so the whole strategy to it, right? Just because you have a run doesn't mean you're necessarily going to pass him. You got to make sure when you go to pass him, you are going to clear him. Otherwise, you're going to pay the price.
Sadly, the one difference between here and real life is it seems to be that higher lane just seems to struggle to carry as much momentum around that outside and down the straightaways as it did in real life. However, the big thing that is still similar, though, is all those bumps all over the racetrack, and that's something these drivers are dealing with a lot, as most of them are running that bottom lane in turns 1 and 2, and they're definitely having to drive straight through those bumps. And if you could get through it, it's quick, but if you mess up even a little bit, you can push up high and really kill your lap time.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that too, because I noticed the last time through 1 and 2, Ty was kind of running that middle, but like you said, some guys are running that bottom, and Elliott didn't really look like he lost much at all, so it looks like he's getting through the bottom of 1 and 2. I'll be interested to see how they run it again here.
Well, I've been noting that the leaders have definitely been on the bottom pretty much the entire time. I think right now that is the faster lane, but I say that, and Jacob Manning around the outside is making the pass on Elliott Henderson, so he's making some forward progress using that higher lane, and he's using the really high lane in 3 and 4, which I'm surprised is effective right now.
Yeah, man. You're talking about it, and look at the run he's getting too. I mean, maybe it's just a works on one end of the racetrack and it doesn't on the other. I'm intrigued now to see if more guys are going to try to do what he's doing right now and maybe try to replicate him.
Yeah, he's not really getting as much of a run coming down out of turn 4, but through the center of 1 and 2 and out of turn 2, he's getting a massive run. He goes all the way up to the wall to try and make a run, carrying full throttle speed off the corner. That's actually a pretty good run. He might get a bit of a toe down the front straightaway and pull up towards Ty Aiken. That's an interesting line you don't see very often around here.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible, and I think that's something, we keep talking about this setup, but I think that's something this invites too, right? On a traditional setup, what would we be doing? Probably running in a line, maybe not trying as many different lanes, but because this setup affects tires and the car a little bit differently. You're searching for speed constantly. And this is kind of what you see in real life too. So it is very good to see this very interesting strategy as Jacob Manning pulls ahead of Ty Aiken. Jacob Manning is on the move, Alex.
Yeah, Jacob Manning pulled to the inside out of turn 2 on Ty Aiken, just a power move to get below him, and drove right around him through the center of 3 and 4, and is gonna continue to make his march up to the front of the field. And now I got a question. He's running that higher lane. Is it possible he might be running it just to give himself clean air for certain?
It could be, and it could be why he's rotating pretty much so much better than these other guys, right? It could be part of the philosophy, but I'm still thinking he's in it for that, as you've been alluding to, that toe down the front stretch. But, I would like to see, and now you see Ty going to the outside actually behind him. I would like to see what it would do, right? If a whole bunch of them were up there, right? Say 2, 3 in a row were in a line, because we would definitely have that question answered if guys behind him got tight because of the air. I think we'd figure that out better. So that's something maybe we can wait and see, and we might get an answer for that here in a bit.
Yeah, the one thing I'm interested into seeing, if we end up seeing it later in this race, that I know was true for officials when iRacing was there last week, is that if you were leading, or say you didn't want somebody to pass you and you pinched them really hard on the bottom, there was no way they were going to get around you. But so far we've seen these guys give each other a lot of space through the middle of the corners and not really fight positions more than they really have to. So I'm wondering if we're going to see more of that heat up, especially as we start to approach the pit cycle.
Yeah, that's a fair point as well, Alex. And speaking of the pit cycle too, we were informed before the race, roughly 40 laps. So we're going to be within the window here, probably in the next 6, maybe 7 laps, maybe see potentially the first guys heading to pit road. The question will be, who will make the first dart down pit road? Who is it going to be? If I was somebody like Jacob Manning right now, I might even stay out a lap or 2 extra just because of my pace right now. If I'm able to keep this pace, run faster than these guys, and maybe gain a lap or 2 extra fuel insurance on this first run, I'm all for it. If I'm somebody maybe like who's been, kind of a little bit off the pace, Lewis Woodall in 7th, Scott Stewart 8th, maybe I'm thinking, try something, pit early, maybe try to gain that delta on these guys. So it's going to be very interesting here in a couple laps, Alex.
Well, a little news that we seem to be getting up here from the drivers, as a matter of fact, is that Ty Aiken has had to go ahead and do something. So he has dropped out of this race, sadly. Driver that looked like he had a lot of pace to possibly win this race is now going to be gone out of this event.
Yeah, and it's actually showing me that it's showing a packet loss. So I'm not sure if it was something he had going on or if just simply it was an internet connection, but 100% tough to see. As you can see, Lewis in that Pepsi car, he is fighting strong on that bottom lane. He's all over Barber Gelada right now. Side by side as they still go down this straightaway. You can see how hard they're fighting, and because they're side by side, everybody's catching them from behind.
Yeah, you got that battle back there, and then you also have the battle towards the front of the field between Elliott Henderson and Jacob Manning. Wow, Elliott almost got into the wall. I checked up front. They almost made contact in the middle of the back straightaway, but we're watching this battle towards the back. Woodall, Scott Stewart, Barber Gelada, and also I believe that is 91 of Austin Moore. These guys are going at it, but they're massive gap to the front pack of almost 4 seconds to them. They're losing a lot of time with this battling.
Yeah, and that's something that they really need to take into account too, right? You're definitely not gaining any time running 3 wide here at Las Vegas in a setup like this, in a downforce package like this with this package. But honestly, if I'm these guys with all this time I've lost, I think it might be worth the gamble here in the next couple laps. Maybe try to be that first pitter.
Yeah, it is. Unlike other racetracks where pretty much the strategy is always pit 1 lap after your competitors, the guys you're racing with, here at this racetrack, the guys that are all the way in the back might just want to pit early to get a bit of lap time early to make sure they get back in that draft for the next long run. And once they're in that draft, they could just try and save their tires the best they can. Because right at the moment, there really is no advantage to them pitting later, as they're just simply too big of a gap to really catch back up to them by pitting that late.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Jacob Manning is getting through these corners extremely well. You saw Elliott come off that last corner just a little bit tight, and he was just unable to make it stick, and Jacob just looked like he blew by him. I'm telling you, Alex, I think Jacob Manning has figured something out. He's gotten himself track position. I really want to see what's going to happen on this next run. Has he done enough to set him up on this next run to potentially maybe battle for the lead? As you can see, Barbagelata and Austin Moore continuing to battle. Barb is way up the racetrack here down the front stretch, none of them even electing to use the dog leg. And Barb goes way outside in turn 1 and 2, and Austin is way on that bottom. Two definitely distinctively different lines, and Austin looks like he's able to clear him.
Yeah, William Barbagelata is definitely starting to struggle here as he's lost a lot of time to the leaders and even the guys that he's currently racing with. From originally the top 3 positions all the way back to right now around the 8th position, he's definitely struggling on those tires and really doesn't have the pace at the moment. But we're watching this battle towards the front a little bit. Nathan Nicholson gets the position, and Elliott Henderson's falling off a little bit as well.
And I'll tell you what, one of my I think everybody looks at him as the Marcos Ambrose. Oh, he's just a road course racer. He's only going to win on the road courses. Well, everybody, he's competing for this championship, and I can tell you from racing with him in officials and as a teammate in this series that he is no slouch on ovals. He just passed 3 times Great Lakes Truck Series champion, guys. So Nathan Nicholson is no joke on these ovals. I think he is a very good driver who's only continuing to get better as Jacob is hounding Zach Henry going to the bottom here in 3 and 4. Is he going to get him? Man, Jacob can just make it rotate so well, Alex, but I think Zach Henry is going to hold on.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough going down in a turn 1 here to really hold any position. Now, something I might want to note right here is that you can try and pull a slide job down in this corner. These guys have to back up a little bit as Zachary Henry's in the wall, almost makes contact with Nicholson. Nicholson narrowly gets out of the way. With Zachary Henry in the wall all the way down to the 5th position, that's going to hurt him a ton, but now Jacob Manning has open space to get the leader.
Yeah, it's going to be curious to see how that arrow is going to affect Zach Henry there. I don't know how hard he actually got it, but good job by Elliott and Nathan to both be evasive there and be heads up. As you can see, it looks like Zach just really kind of got tight, probably with the air. And again, just a great evasive action by the 37 and the 47.
I'm hearing that Jacob Bransky is going to be going down into the pit lane. We're on lap 43, so these guys made it a good length into this fuel window. Actually, a little bit longer than we expected them to be able to. He's going to be followed by Jacob Manning into the pit lane, so these two are going to follow the same strategy. Just behind them, Lewis Woodall, Scott Stewart, and Brandon White are all going to follow this strategy of pitting on lap 43 to 44. Now we'll watch and see where some of these other drivers come out, as right now Elliott Henderson is leading the field. We'll see when he pits.
And I bet you him staying out there, Alex, was for that championship point. I think it's smart. Elliott's running for a title. You get that extra point. It looks like he's not going to elect to come down again. Is that Zach Henry peeling off? It looks like he's coming to pit road. I think Nicholson. I'm not sure if that was Nicholson following him there or not.
That is Austin Moore following, as well as Christopher Heller coming into the pit lane.
Okay, so it looks like split second. At least the 37 and the 47 electing to go long here on the first run. And it looks like there's actually a pretty decent battle coming off the pit lane between both Jacobs, Bransky, and Manning. And it looks like Manning is actually going to come out in front of Bransky. Unreal.
Yeah, it just caught that last second. Manning was dragging him around the outside, carrying more speed, and they were side by side coming out of the pit lane as finally Nicholson and Elliott coming off the pit, go onto the pit lane, sorry. We'll see how much time they lose because of the 2 laps. They stayed out longer than these 2 leaders at the moment. I mean, we already see the next driver who ended up pitting, Scott Stewart, way behind. We'll have to see when some of these other drivers who pit the lap before come out. I'm seeing Zachary Henry's about anywhere from a quarter of a track to even a third of the track away from these 2 leaders. That's a lot of time lost.
Yeah, a lot of time lost and a lot of time gained. I mean, I don't know if Bransky made a mistake or Manning was just incredible on pit road, but I know one thing's for certain. Bransky must have liked that clean air because he is battling so hard right now with Jacob Manning as they are side by side. Oh, I looked like they were about to be side by side, and Manning throws a big block into turn 3, and Bransky has no choice but to lift and regroup. My gosh, and you could tell, Alex, these guys want that clean air. It must be really important. Bransky knows. He was out there out front the whole last run.
Yeah, I've been aware. I've run a lot of these races when iRacing Official Series were here, and that was the big thing. You wanted to get out to the lead because it was just so hard to pass the leader. And with this two-horse battle side by side into turn 3, this is the best opportunity to do it before any other guys catch up, because the moment you get guys caught up in a pack, it just becomes harder and harder to pass the leader. As anytime you try and make a pass, wherever the next guy goes is whoever gets the lead. And Bransky's going to take the lead off turn 4. Jacob Manning's going to look to fight it back, but Bransky's just been so strong out front.
I'll tell you what, it's a good day to be a Jacob. You know, if you're rooting for a Jacob, you got the first two guys in the running order right now are both Jacobs, but Bransky looked very decisive there, making that move to get that lead. I'm curious now, though, right? Because I did not expect Manning to be this far up coming out of that pit stop to the lead already. We know Manning, it looked like, probably had the best long run car. So I'm wondering if this is part of his strategy right now. Is this, okay, I'm not going to battle 100% right now with Bransky. It looked like Bransky was driving pretty difficultly tough right there to get past Jacob Manning, as I'm running out of thoughts just how hard these guys are racing. So maybe that's part of Jacob's plan here. He's just going to lag back and maybe play this out, because I know Manning was incredibly fast and rotated probably the best out of all the cars in the last run.
Well, it definitely helps as well. He had a phenomenal pit entry. As I was watching him, he gained around 8 to 9 car lengths on the pit entry to get just that much closer to Bransky. So because of that, they are going to be in this solo 2-horse race for the lead. But as right now, the gap has gotten bigger, and while we wait for that gap to close up, we might want to go to a side-by-side.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and T. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine. Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and T. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Undercurrents TX200 at Las Vegas for the Great Lakes Cup Series. We're right now watching the two leaders battle for the lead positions. Jacob Manning left a bit of a gap as we were watching the side-by-side, and now he's pulling the gap back closer as they got around this lap car of Hunter Madalinas. The gap has been closing between these two, but the other gap has been getting bigger between them and the rest of the field. They're over 6.5 seconds to the third position right now.
Yeah, no question about it, Alex. I mean, they've pulled away, but as we just talked about, there might be something looming that they might not be totally in control of right now, and that's Sunoco race fuel. This is 134 laps here. We know that Nathan Nicholson stayed out 2 laps extra. Zach Henry, a lap extra. Austin Moore, a lap extra as well. Do they maybe have enough to make it a 2-stop race from here? And do Bransky and Manning run the risk right now, especially with the pace they're running compared to the rest of the field now, with, of course, pitting earlier, running out of fuel? This is a serious discussion point right now to be talking about, and I'm not sure they even realize it.
Yeah, it's a really tight pit window. At around a maximum we saw of about lap 45 were some of the last guys to come on pit road, going on to 46. If you do that one more time, which would be around lap 90, you're going to narrowly make the finish of the race by just over 1 lap. Well, these guys pit 2 laps earlier than even that, so they're going to be really tight on fuel if they can't at least make it 44, 45 laps into this stint.
And I can tell you what, from experience, because I think a lot of guys have lost to him quite a lot. I mean, you take a look at the Great Lakes stats. Nobody's won more races than Elliott Henderson, and he'll be the first guy to tell you there's been races he's won where he wasn't even necessarily the fastest. So if there's anybody doing something smart with strategy, it's definitely the 37. So this is going to be something we're going to have to keep our eyes on when everybody makes their next pit cycle. Fuel will definitely become an issue potentially for these two leaders.
Well, clearly it's not too much of a concern for them at the moment, as the battle's just been getting closer and closer between the two of them. Going into turn 3, Manning was almost on the rear bumper of Jacob Bransky and almost hit him into turn 3. Decided to back off a little bit, but this lap car of Hunter Madalinas is throwing a little bit of confusion in here. He could go with whoever he wants to just basically put them in the lead. He has enough pace to keep up with them in the draft, despite the fact that he went a lap down. It doesn't seem to be he's losing too much time to these two leaders.
And that's the thing about this package. And you know, lap cars can help you, and they could also hurt you too. And it's a great point. You know, Hunter is keeping pace with them. It's kind of reminiscent of the 2004 Daytona 500 when Kurt Busch was up there a lap down helping guys out. So curious to see if that affects anything here. Maybe does Madalinas give Manning some kind of push, or just arrow push to maybe potentially get a run on Bransky? It will definitely have to be seen. As you can see, Lewis Woodall right now battling, going to the inside. It looks like of Scott Stewart. Looks like he's going to take that spot pretty much with ease, as he's going to slide back up here off turn 2. It doesn't look like Scott's going to have the ability to go down low and cross him over. Heller down there in the lap car. How often do you say that, Alex? Chris Heller a lap down.
Christopher Heller is just not having the night he'd be hoping for today. He's really just not had the pace most of the day. He didn't really qualify too well, and is right now a lap down way back in the pack. I'm curious as to what happened to him. Maybe he's just not having a great night, or maybe something happened to his car, but he's a lap down and just struggling today. So this will be a day he's going to probably want to be forgetting at the end of the night.
Yeah, I think it's, I did hear him on the radio. As you can see, Jake Manning right now going for the lead under Bransky. Not sure if he's going to have enough here off the corner. Looks like he's going to have to duck back down right behind him. He's going to just have to be patient now. He doesn't want to go make the move if it's not going to be there, because you're going to lose all your momentum. I think that was a very wise choice there by Jacob in that one car. As you can see now, he's trying to get that momentum going back a little bit up to the top off turn 4. Not going to get the toe he wants, though, down the straightaway. Madalina's still right there behind them.
Well, I want to bring up
Go ahead,
Madalinas again, because him and Jacob Manning are a part of the 2511 Racing Group. They're a part of the same team, but in contrast, Jacob Bransky in front of him is a part of Split Second Esports, and we know the rivalry between those teams in this series. It's absolutely phenomenal. Week by week, it's those two teams that are really contending for the win, and right now you've got two 2511 cars, one of them not in contention for the win, the other one in contention for the win, and it could create a big issue for Bransky to even hold this position, because I imagine Hunter's just going to help out Manning as much as he can.
Yeah, and I don't think I would know anything about 2511, right? Not like I'm the co-owner or anything, but no, you're absolutely right. That is a team car right behind Jacob Manning. It's a fair point, and sometimes even as a lap car, you have to use your friends when you can get them. And no question, there's a rivalry between Split Second and 2511. I can tell you what, right now, I'm going to be honest. Split Second had a really good offseason and added some really good talent. I think they're definitely ahead of us right now. My 2511 bias, I'm going to be brutally honest. I think they've added a lot of talent, but Jacob Manning is also a superstar driver. So if there's anybody who can figure it out right now and try to get that edge on Split Second, it's Jacob Manning. And he's got help from his teammate, Hunter, right behind him.
That must have been a tough sentence for you to swallow there, Brandon. I could feel it in your voice as you were trying to say it.
I'm a realist.
Well, the realist is going to be looking for one of his team cars to win tonight, as it really is between these two drivers, as the gap has opened up to almost 8 seconds to Elliott Henderson in the third position. These guys are just running an absolutely phenomenal pace. It's just a matter of how much fuel are they going to have for the finish of this race, because I imagine they're going to have to at least make it to lap 89 to 90 to make it to the finish of the race, as Manning goes to the inside of Bransky, again battling down into turns 1 and 2, but just simply can't get enough of a run down there.
Yeah, and something to notice there too, not getting the run. It's not even really like Bransky was totally pinching him either. It just seems like maybe it's just for whatever reason, maybe the way the track has rubbered in, maybe temperature has changed a little bit here throughout the, of course, the course of the night. It doesn't look like Jacob Manning is able to do what he was able to do on that first run, right? On that first run, we saw him, pick off passes like that where he would set up a move and he would go right under a guy. He got under Elliott. He passed Zach Henry and all those guys. It doesn't seem like he's able to do that right now. So maybe that's what Bransky's plan was the whole time. He just felt so comfortable in this clean air that he fought so hard for it. And we obviously saw him really aggressive at the beginning of this run, but it doesn't look like it's hurt him.
Well, I feel the timing is fortunate as well, because from what I've noticed in my own personal experience, it just seems to be that in the longer run, the lead becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, and just that much harder to pass the car. When Bransky passed him, they were fresh out of the pit lane, less than 5 laps on the tires, and that's when Bransky made the move, and pretty much right after he made the move, Manning fell off a lot pace-wise, and while he's caught back up now, the tires are well worn. They're running almost a second slower than they were at the beginning of this run, so it's going to become just that much harder to get the grip to make the pass.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm honestly maybe even thinking too, could potentially Hunter being there be creating some kind of force in the draft behind Jacob and maybe potentially making him tight? I know usually we talk about obviously having clean air on the nose of the car, but with the way these cup cars are set up, right, they're just so aero dependent. I'm almost wondering if maybe Hunter being there is just maybe potentially even creating some kind of, making it harder for Jacob Manning to get past Bransky.
Well, see, from what I've found is I found it to be the opposite. I found if you get a car right up on your rear bumper, it actually gets really loose because it tries to take the air off that rear end and just seems to make the rear end really sketchy and want to step out a lot. But the big thing that I'm going to be watching, because if Hunter gets on Manning's bumper, say going onto that front straight where he's making this move multiple times every other lap, if he gets on his bumper and gives him enough of a shove, he might be able to clear him going into turn 1. There is most definitely that possibility.
Yeah, no question about that, Alex. I think that might be the move. Now, one thing I will say is I noticed Jacob Manning, obviously not Bransky, was making his moves on the last run. It seemed like he was a little bit better in turns 3 and 4. I think you would definitely probably agree with me. It seems like now he's very set on this idea of trying to make the pass in 1 and 2, and I get it. Obviously, to the point you just made, you get that huge run down the front stretch, but maybe flip the track. Maybe try to set it up in 3 and 4. He looks strong there early, and he seems like he's gone away from it.
Yeah, the difficult part about that, though, is I found, he gets really tight off turn 4, but he's going to be all right, is that I found getting a run into turns 1 and 2 is just so much easier due to that curved front straightaway, but getting it down into 3 and 4 is just so much harder because all those bumps, all the different lines that you run, and just how easy it is for the leader to block you down in that corner very suddenly. It just makes it so much harder to get down in a turn 3 with a decent run, but somewhere down here, like in turns 3 and 4, where he's getting this run every time, Bransky's consistently running the bottom, and Manning is consistently running the middle lane and getting these big runs down this curved front straight. But once he gets down into turn 1 and 2, bumps and what have you just make it so hard to pass.
Yeah, no question about it. It definitely looks like Bransky, too, is getting through 1 and 2 a lot better than Manning right now. It seems like Manning is set on obviously trying to get that run off, and he's doing a great job of it every time off turn 4. You can see the closing rate every time down this front straightaway. And of course, now when I say it, it's not happening, but just for whatever reason, he's not getting that same run off of turn 1 and 2. So Bransky has something figured out with that bottom lane. He is doing a fantastic job managing the air and just doing everything he can to just keep Manning right behind him, right where he wants him.
Well, different battle I'm watching for the 4th position. Nathan Nicholson, Zachary Henry. Nicholson to the outside of Zachary Henry, who's fallen off. Elliott Henderson's going to get passed by Nicholson. Nicholson pitting the same lap as Elliott Henderson, but seems to have some pretty solid long run pace. He was really far off of Elliott coming out of the pit lane, sorry. But he seemed to have gained a lot of time lately. You see the lap as he comes across the line, 31.2. And I'm looking at the leaders, that's about the same lap time the leaders is running. So he has pretty decent long run pace and could find himself in the 3rd position before the next pit cycle.
Yeah, and relative to Zach Henry, I mean, he was pretty much 4/10 faster that last lap than him. So Nicholson 100% has something figured out right now. I think this type of setup definitely maybe suits Nicholson's driving style a little bit better. He excels whenever the high horsepower package is in the Cup car. Obviously, this is still 550, but I think that feeling that's in this car is what's suiting him a lot more. He feels like he's more in control of the vehicle as opposed to just conforming to just really just draft and being in a line. So I think that's something that really is playing into his wheelhouse. And I think Zach Henry, after all said and done, hitting that wall on that first run pretty good. We saw that at the tail end, is doing a great job still hanging on to 5th. It doesn't look like he's lost too much speed relative to the competition. So Zach Henry, I feel like, has always been a rock solid driver. He's a winner in the Cup Series, so all credit to him as well for hanging on right now.
Well, the gap is closing between Nicholson and Elliott. Elliott's been falling off a lot these last few laps. He went from about 9.8 seconds to about 11 seconds off. He's actually going to run the high lane. I think he's going to let Nicholson by. I think he recognizes that Nicholson's faster, and as a teammate, he wants to let him by to just let him have at it and run the leaders down if he can, possibly help him out if possible. But Elliott now is going to have to hold off Henry for that 5th position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Elliott and Nicholson, both teammates, and I think Elliott definitely, if anybody understands the package, it's him, right? The more you race each other, the more time you lose. They're already so far back. He doesn't want to hold up Nicholson. Maybe he can somehow get in Nicholson's wake, in his draft wake, and maybe just even make his lap times faster. Maybe that's just the thought process, but I'll tell you what, Zach Henry is going to be definitely battling here maybe in the next lap or so on Elliott Henderson. It looks like that 37 car has definitely fallen off on this run. Something is not going right for the 37 right now. And Henry is just going to blow by him. And there goes Austin Moore, too. I mean, Elliott is really off the pace.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Elliott's just loose or if he's really tight. He seems to be loose, though. He seems to just be doing a four-wheel slide. But yeah, you mentioned coming through there as well was Austin Moore. Oh, I'm hearing something interesting on the driver radio. I hear Jacob Bransky says he's pitting in. This is not an ideal lap to be pitting in. Lap 86, same thing with Jacob Manning. They're pitting lap 86 onto 87. They're gonna be short by almost 3 to 4 laps on fuel to make it to the finish from here. I don't think these guys are gonna make it. I think the rest of the field is gonna be the ones battling for the win.
I'm telling you right now, if this thing stays green, I think Nathan Nicholson may have just won this race. I'm with you, Alex. I am 100% questioning this call right now. Unless these guys think on this last run that they can save, whatever, 40, even more than 45, you'd have to go to like 40, 8? I mean, that's going to be a lot to ask for. I'm not so sure about this right now. I think Nicholson, Moore, Henry, Henderson, I think these guys are all playing it right so far right now.
Yeah, they pit about the same time as they did the last run, 43 laps into the run. So these guys are committing to the same lap strategy, but the lap strategy I don't believe will make them win the race. So right now, I believe the battle for the win is actually going to be between Austin Moore and Nathan Nicholson, because I'm not counting out Austin Moore. He's passed Zachary Henry pretty easily, as a matter of fact, and is trying to run him down, and now he's in the pit lane. So he's pitting lap 88. I think he'll still be short by about a lap. He might narrowly make it, but I think he might possibly be pitting a tad bit early as well.
Yeah, I mean, imagine right, seeing those other guys, and now I'm hearing Nicholson on the radio coming down, and so Zach Henry. Elliott's pitting as well, so everybody's coming. So I don't know if they know something that we don't, Alex. Maybe we're underestimating the fuel window, or maybe they're all going to run out of fuel.
Well,
this
no,
is going to be.
I believe these three guys right here will be able to make it. They'll make it just by about a lap, because they're going to, by the time they get their fuel, they're going to be on lap 90. And last time they pit in was a 45 lap run. So I believe they'll be able to make it relatively comfortably. It might be a little close. The spotter might be yelling at them that they're low on fuel, but I think they should be able to make it. The real question is going to be, is it even possible for Bransky and Manning to make it to the finish? And is it going to be possible for somebody like Austin Moore, who pit one lap earlier, to make it to the finish?
Well, after what I just heard over the radio comms, Nicholson had a little bit of a slower pit entry. He said his car was sputtering coming to pit road. So I don't think there's any chance the 23 and the 1 make it. There is absolutely no shot, Alex. I can't imagine it. If Nicholson, who was on the same strategy as Elliott and Austin Moore, if he was running out of fuel coming to pit lane, I mean, maybe that was the thought process behind Elliott maybe giving up pace. I'm not sure. This is going to be really interesting to watch.
I'm not sure either. I still believe even if they run at their normal pace, they'll make it from here, because they should be about a lap clear. Even if they burn a little bit extra, I think they'll still have a little bit left in the tank. The real question is going to be Austin Moore, who's way out in front of them right now by almost 2 seconds. 2 to 3 seconds, actually. Will he be able to make it? Because he pit a lap earlier than them. So he might narrowly make it if he saves fuel, but he has no draft around him to do so.
Yeah, and that's the kicker, right? So his option right now is, lift, let go of throttle time. The disadvantage that he's going to have, well, he doesn't have any drafting help. So when he lifts, yes, he's saving fuel, but he is going to give up time. So that's the part of the equation now where it's going to get really interesting. The benefit for these top two guys, even though we think they might be short, is that they at least have that draft to lean on. And that might be what they're banking on, because they have, that big cushion of a gap. Maybe that's something they're thinking about doing on this last run. It's all going to be extremely interesting, and obviously having the draft is always better than not having it. So this is going to be crazy coming down to the wire.
Well, the one thing I'm looking at is coming the last lap. These group of three, Henry, Elliott, and Nicholson, have run 30.9s. For fresh tires, that is an excruciatingly slow lap. It feels like you're gonna hit the apron with how slow you're going. The front tires just want to keep turning, so they're running very slow lap times. 31.1 that time by. In comparison, our leaders are still in the 29s. They're hauling the mail right now. They're not at all trying to save fuel. These guys are not gonna make it for certain.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's telling me, Alex. If they're backing up their pace already like this, where they pit, they know something that clearly the one of the 23 don't know right now. And I'll tell you what, if all three of them are in a line like this, Henry, Henderson, and Nicholson, why not try it? You know, if you can not give up totally so much time running in a line and you're saving fuel, this is the ideal spot to do it. Someone like Austin, though, right now, who's kind of in the middle, he's kind of in the middle of the sandwich of the fuel strategies. He's in limbo right now. No drafting help, no friends to lean on. Um, it's going to be very questionable for him, and we are pretty much certain at this point the 23 and the 1 without a caution can't make it the distance.
Yeah, and these three guys that we're watching right here, so they're running that kind of pace. They're running 31s right now. Austin Moore in front of him, who, if anything, his only hope at making it to the end of this race with a good finishing position is to also save fuel. He's running low 30s. So he's not even backing up his pace. He's just running a pace. So I don't even think he realizes, as Zachary Henry, did he get booted through the grass? Yes, he did. He's running through the grass right now. Elliott Henderson. Yeah, Elliott Henderson's off the pace. Did they make contact and crash? Yeah, Elliott Henderson has front end damage.
And I'll tell you what, though, crazy save by Henry, but what are these guys thinking, right? Why make a move like this? They had it all set up to save fuel. Oh, and it looked like Henry actually got loose.
Yeah, Zachary Henry's clipped the apron. That's what I was talking about. I said that earlier. They're running such a slow pace. You feel like you want to hit the apron. The tires want to turn. Well, that's exactly what just happened. The tires turned too much and he hit the apron. That's exactly what happens when you're running such a slow pace on new tires, is the tires just don't want to comply with your pace. And he did exactly the problem with that strategy. So right now, the only person really in a good spot to win this race is Nicholson, as he's the only one that doesn't have any damage, is on what I believe is the best strategy, and he's running with the two leaders right now, so he has draft as well.
Well, the only thing is, sure, he's running with the leaders, but the leaders are behind him ready to lap him, so it's all going to be crazy. I mean, with this big of a gap now, maybe do you roll the dice as the 23 and the 1 and just take a splash? I mean, that this could also become a legitimate strategy. So I have no idea what to think right now. Obviously that, the whole fiasco there with Henry, what a save, by the way. That's going to change everything for the fuel strategy saving. But because they lost all that time, now Nicholson has the leaders breathing down his neck. So you try to save fuel. Well, guess what happens too? You lose too much time, and now Jacob Bransky's right behind him, threatening to put him a lap down. This is going to be wild.
And I may have possibly spoken a little bit early on Nicholson pretty much being the only one, as Elliott, even with the damage, he's still tagging along to the back of these leaders. Yes, he does have a little bit of a gap to them, but he's not falling off too much, and he's pretty deep in the pack line, so he's got a much bigger draft than Nicholson, so we could run a solid pace without burning as much fuel. And so he's still in a good spot to perform very well in this race, while these two leaders are pretty much totally out of it at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, being off pace might not be like the worst thing in the world right now. I mean, maybe with this toe he's got and, just running a little bit slower, and he can afford to and not lose as much time, maybe this is going to play into his favor. So, sometimes things that you think would be a negative, could potentially turn into a positive. And if that's the case, that would be extremely fortunate, as the 37's in a title hunt right now in this league.
Yeah, Elliott Henderson is pulling a strategy to try and gain points on a day that maybe he didn't have as much pace as he would have hoped. because going into this race, I'm sure there were drivers that were looking at the possibility of this going green, especially with the small car count that we had going into this event. We only had 13 starters to the race, so there was a high possibility that no wrecks end up happening and this goes green. So they were prepared for that. Him and the rest of the split-second drivers, except for Bransky, who's right now out front, but with pretty much no hope to make it on fuel, pretty much everybody else pit with a strategy hoping to make it to the end of the race on fuel.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting, and it doesn't look like Bransky has any thoughts of slowing down as he goes by. Nicholson puts him a lap down. Manning goes by. I wonder if Nicholson's thinking to save even more. Look how much he's backing off now, Alex. Elliott just blew by him as well.
Yeah, Nicholson really backed up that last corner. He must be trying to save fuel, just knowing that Elliott's really the only person right now he's racing with. So he just has to make sure that he has the fuel for the finish and possibly enough fuel to run a harder pace right at the end to try and pass him. So I also hearing as well a little bit that he might possibly be clutching it into the corner, which is something you don't typically see in this car with how much momentum you have to keep up. It's usually really hard to try and save fuel, but yeah, as we listen on board, he's in the clutch rolling into the corners, so no RPMs for Nicholson as he runs through turns 1 and 2. So he is really saving fuel. He's making sure that he makes it to the end of this race for certain.
I'm going to say, it's, he's given up a ton of time doing it, right? But like what you just said, the only guy he's racing right now is the 37. So, he can afford it. What does he care if he finishes second right now? If this doesn't work, he still finishes second. We don't think the 23 and the 1 can make it by any means. Honestly, maybe you do roll the dice on what Nicholson's doing, but to your point, the question is, how much time do you want to forfeit? I mean, he has already lost virtually a whole straightaway to the 37 in about 2.5 laps. So, sure, he's saving fuel, but the amount of time he's forfeiting, he's already a lap down. At a certain point, you're going to have to start asking questions.
And something I'm a little bit interested in, so typically you lose about a lap going into the pit lane and getting tires and coming out. However, that's for a 4-tire stop. If you take 2 tires with reduced fuel, you might be able to come out of the pit lane with pace and in front of everybody else who stayed out. These 2 leaders have lapped everybody else. I put this strategy in doubt, but they're running such a fast pace that they're pulling way ahead of these other guys and are having to actually make them push a little bit to hold enough of a gap to even be ahead of them if they were to pit. So this strategy might actually be a better strategy than I initially thought.
Yeah, so maybe what you're suggesting is the 23 and the 1 just decide to make another stop is what you're suggesting. I'm assuming, and I don't think it's crazy. I mean, with the gap they have, right? I mean, especially if you put stickers on it, you would pretty much force everybody's hand to come down, right? I would assume so. But the pace they would have coming out of the pits, I mean, the best lap times that have been run in this race are 29.5s, right? Everybody's running in the 31s right now, 31.2s, 31.1s, 31.3s. I mean, that's a huge delta, right? Those first couple laps. And then obviously the fuel would not be a question anymore. You know what, Alex? I think that brings up a great point.
Well, that's why I mentioned 2 tires, because if you take 2 tires, they're going to be so close to the end of the race that you don't have to take the fuel either. So you could make your setup tighter by not taking fuel, so that when you get on those 2 tires, you're not sliding around a lot. So you could not only not lose the position, but still have a faster pace on newer tires. So this strategy that I initially doubted, they're running such a hot and fast pace that it might end up working out for them.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I think it makes a great point. Definitely doesn't break anything, but I think it absolutely is worth trying, especially you've got a lap on the field virtually, besides Austin Moore and Brandon White. Maybe it's Vegas, baby. You roll the dice. What would DW say? You got to roll the dice, boys. So this is going to be crazy to watch. Austin Moore, by the way, still I don't think has any drafting help. I'm taking a look at him right now on the monitor. Doesn't look like Brandon White has anybody in his vicinity either. So there's absolutely no way these guys can be saving. Maybe if I'm these guys, I'm thinking to make the first trip on that strategy, Alex. Maybe even.
The only issue, though, is that for them to really gain the position on these two leaders, they're so far behind that they would hope the leaders take those 4 tires and just have a slow enough stop for them to jump them on 2. But with how few laps that are left, I'd be surprised if they take 4. Like, I would say that that's just simply not a smart move if you take 4 tires with how few laps there would be at the end of this race. By the time they pit, I imagine they're only going to be anywhere from 10 to 5 laps to go. And that's simply just not enough time for 4 tires to make a difference. As Bransky seems to be coming into the pit lane now, so he's actually splitting this run in half by about 20 laps to 20 laps. So he's pitting now for tires.
Yeah, and I'm interested in what you just said right now. I'm a firm believer that right now it's 2 tires. I think if you come maybe in 10 laps, I think it's no tires. But I think if you come right now, it's 2. And if he takes 4, I'm going to be interested to see, because if he's in this stop for a long time and other guys pick up the memo, what I would do is I would stay out to about 124, 125, come down fuel only, and just try to hope that Delta gets you there.
Seem to have a bit longer of a pit stop. He may have possibly taken those multiple tires.
It's showing me on my telemetry, I'm seeing a 10.9 second stop. So it could have potentially been right. I believe a 4-tire stop would have been about 13, 14 seconds.
Yes, you're correct. I just looked at the pit stop. Yeah, the left sides never went up. So he's sitting on right side tires right now. Honestly, I would have taken 4 if he is going to split this in half. You're just going to have so much pace with so many laps left in the race that it might have still worked out to take 4 tires. But now that leaves Jacob Manning as the really lone guy out to try and extend this out towards the end of the race. I mean, I'm not really sure who's in the ideal spot right now. Bransky has the pace, Manning has the track position, and Elliott has the fuel. So who is going to end up where at the end of this race? I do not know.
Yeah, and if our calculations are right, I think this is going to get Jacob Manning to about lap 129, 130, right? Of the scheduled 134. I think if we're on the same page, from what I'm seeing, he's been out there for 33 laps. I think that sounds about right. So you're going to be curious to see what he chooses to do. Maybe he's going to roll the dice and take no tires, Looking at the lap times right now, it looks like Bransky is about a full second faster than Jacob Manning on that last time by with the 2 tires compared to obviously old set of 4 tires. So actually that time by Bransky was in the 29, so he is definitely fast. So maybe potentially, the no tire strategy might not work. So I think if anything, Bransky coming first might have actually just solidified something for him. I think he definitely might have made the right move, Alex. I think you'd probably agree.
Well, it seems like right now the fuel strategy has been sealed and sent as the worst strategy of the night. Bransky already around Elliott this early into the final run, with him taking that extra pit stop and pulling away on these 2 tires. So Elliott has no shot of winning this race right now. Bransky most definitely will be ahead of him. It's just a matter of where will Jacob Manning end up at the end of the race when he ends up pitting.
Yeah, and no question. And I guess maybe we potentially jinxed it, right? We were the guys after when we took the break saying we weren't so sure about this strategy, but it looks like for sure with how fast Bransky got up through this pack, already running in the 4th spot. It looks like potentially he might have the winning strategy. The only thing that would change everything right now is a caution. And I don't know what you do if you're Jake Bransky at that point.
Well, I do still think it might be possible for Jacob Manning to still win this race if he possibly takes fuel only right at the end, does like a 2-3 second pit stop, and just takes just narrowly enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. He could still end up ahead of Bransky, but that's a bit of a gamble. as right now, around the next corner, he's probably going to end up passing him to get his lap back. So it's going to be less than a full lap to get around him, as the pace is really slowed down for Manning, as the pace for Bransky is just blazing.
Yeah, no question about it. And obviously, I think he would really only need probably about a gallon. But the fact that Bransky just has already passed him is just meaning to tell me that you come for fuel only, right? I feel like at that point there's no chance you beat him, right? By the time you come down even just for the fuel, right? You're not going to have a tire advantage on him. He's potentially even going to be right by, like past you already. So I don't know. I really think there's, unless we see a caution or something crazy, I feel like Jake Bransky's walking out of here with the win.
Well, the pace doesn't seem to be too different right now. While it sounds a lot to be about a half second off, that's still a half second. Bransky only ran about 4 or 5 laps on these tires, so Manning's pace is not terrible on these older tires. And I think a bit of an interesting thing we might have to look out for is right behind Bransky is Hunter Madalinas, the teammate. If he messes with Bransky's pace by trying to run side by side, trying to pass him, doing whatever he can to mess with Bransky, it could slow him down enough to allow Manning to possibly still win this race.
Yeah, no question about it. It would definitely take some a helping hand would definitely go a long way. Any little bit you lose just helps Manning's delta coming out of the pits. But I do like what Jacob Manning is doing here, right? Obviously I'm pretty sure he's probably set on fuel only at this point. But what you do is you run it all the way in case that caution comes out, right? He's the leader right now. He's in control. If a caution were to come out right now, he wouldn't even have to worry about making that stop. So I think as far as his strategy goes right now as a moving book, I think he's playing it perfectly to a T. I think Bransky might have the better strategy, but like you said, it's going to be really interesting. And it doesn't really look like it's, Bransky that time by was a 30.499. Manning was a 31.4. I mean, that's a full second. I know you were saying a couple laps before it was close. So it seems like now he's gapping him a little bit. So I still don't know if fuel only is going to be the winning call. I feel like Bransky, by the time Manning's coming out to the blend line, Bransky might be either side by side or already past him.
All right, well, there's Austin Moore, who pit a couple laps after the 2 leaders, so he didn't make it. Now Manning is in the pit lane. I thought he was going to wait a little bit longer, but he's in the pit lane now. So we'll see where he comes out. I mean, the only shot for him track position wise is to come out with no fuel. Maybe there's some kind of gamble to taking something weird like left side tires, which should be a little bit quicker. All right, well, it looks like he took fuel only, but Bransky is by him, so it's over. Bransky is out front with newer tires, and Jacob Manning, the gap is simply going to be too big, so I think we have our winner right here. Never say never, though. We still have going on to 5.5 laps to go. Something could happen at the end of this race. We never know, but as of right now, it looks like Bransky has the win in the bag.
And that was exactly what I was trying to allude to, was that I just felt like, Bransky was already going to be by him before the time Manning even blended back onto the racetrack. But I will say one thing. Based off, Manning laid his own bet. He didn't follow Bransky down initially. I still think, obviously hindsight 2020, the winning strategy was probably Bransky's, barring anything weird here. But I think how Manning raced it, going off the evolving strategy that he chose, he elected not to pit with Bransky, was the correct move, because if a caution would have come out, Manning would have been the leader, and Bransky would have been scored, third or fourth. So, I can't fault Manning. It's just one of those deals where it was just a bad decision, but hey, he still drove one heck of a race. So, hey, all credit to Bransky, though. He definitely outsmarted these guys for sure.
Suppose the strategy most definitely was to split that run in half and get the speed where it was needed, get the pace where it was needed. And he's pulled out to what probably be across the line over a 9-second gap. So right now, Jacob Bransky's in the perfect position to win this race. Jacob Manning seems pretty solid in that second position as Elliott's about 2.5 back off of him. A little bit bigger now. Now it's 3 seconds to Manning, so the gap to Elliott is pretty much secured, and then to him is about 10 seconds to Zachary Henry behind him, and then the rest of the field is a lap down. So I think we've pretty much got our position set for the end of this race.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if Elliott runs out right on the last lap, I mean, he's got what, that 10, 12 second, buffer just to coast. So it looks like he's going to, barring anything weird, he should secure a podium, which would be huge for Elliott a night that he wasn't even the fastest car. But at the same time, Jacob Bransky's going to get, you get those 5 extra points for winning a race. He's going to be making a case for the championship now, Alex, with this win, if he's able to pull this off.
Yeah, especially with the night that somebody like Christopher Heller has had, who was the champion last season and is pretty much a championship contender year in, year out. This is going to be a big benefit against him and a bit of a gain against Elliott in the 3rd position. Bransky made a strong run at the end of the last season, but as he comes through turns 3 and 4, he's making another case for it this season, as Jacob Bransky is going to come across the line, and he will be your winner at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
I'll tell you what right now, I cannot be more proud of Jake Bransky. He won that race at the end of season 1 in this league at Homestead. He dominated that race, and he has gone a long time winning, like without a win in Great Lakes. Well, guess what? He sweeps the week, trucks and cup. Way to go, Jake Bransky.
Jacob Bransky running a fantastic race. We'll hope to talk to him tonight. We're going to be grabbing in our top 3 finishers once they're ready to come in. But Brandon, how'd you feel about the race? It was an interesting strategy night for sure. We got to see a lot going on. It almost felt like a Formula One race with all this strategy going on.
I think that's a great way of putting it. And I'll tell you what, even Hunter Manolinas was playing a little bow toss out there with team orders, I think, with 25-11. So it certainly was a mock oval Formula One race for sure. Great way of putting it. But, I mean, I love the strategy. 2 things I really love what this league, a couple changes they've made is, one, they're going to these different setups, changing the box, changing the rules a little bit. More driver input in the cars. You saw a lot of separation with the vehicles. I think that puts more in the hands of the driver as opposed to just the vehicle itself. Number 2, we've added actual mileage to these races. In the past, when we've come to 1.5 miles, we've raced 125 laps. We've added a little bit of a distance, right? 20 to 25 miles to these races. 134. That is what created this fuel strategy. That is what separated this field tonight. And I feel like that is what made this race extremely entertaining. And I know you and myself were going back and forth. We didn't even know if Bransky's strategy was going to work, and he pulled it off. So, way to go, Bransky. This race was incredible to watch, in my opinion.
Well, these drivers were incredible to watch, but these drivers are already ready to talk to us. This is probably the fastest they've ever been. They were faster than I could even notify them, but we're going to be going in order this time. Instead of 3rd to 1st, we're going 1st to 3rd. We're going to bring in the winner of the race, Jacob Bransky, with the excellent strategy at the end of the race. We were concerned about your guys with the fuel strategy between you and Manning not being able to make the finish, but you guys showed with just raw pace what you can do to win this race. Tell us about your night.
Yeah, the teammates were just trying to do the fuel strategy, obviously, but being the leader, I didn't want to pull any risky strategy in order to try and win the race. So I just kind of decided to go against what the whole team was doing and to just run my race, and ended up working out in the end.
Yeah, you definitely showed them tonight. I think the race-winning move, or I would say moves tonight, because you made a lot of big passes tonight. For one, you didn't start in the 1st position. You took the lead early in the race. During the first pit cycle, Manning actually got out ahead of you. You battled him for the lead and got the lead onto that pit cycle, and then made a decisive strategy call at the end of the race to decide to pit only 20 laps into your final run and end up just wiping the field by 10 seconds over the 2nd position. I mean, how did you calculate all this? This was absolutely incredible.
I mean, I don't know. I just because I knew I wasn't going to make it on fuel, so there was no point in stretching the fuel. So I just decided to split the run and then get 2 tires, and that's kind of just what worked out. I was kind of concerned because when I did get 2 tires, my pit stop was still like super long. The crew took a little too long on that one, but still ended up working out.
Yeah, I was curious for a quick second if you had actually taken 4 because pit lane was a little bit long, but seemed that that was not the strategy there at the end. It seemed to not really matter if you took 2 or 4, as you still ended up pulling such a massive gap. I could only imagine what you could have done on 4, but you won this race and pretty dominantly, but it doesn't happen without help from others. So who do you have to thank tonight for this?
Just want to thank my team, Split Second Esports, and just thanks to the broadcasters and league owners for this one. Just yeah,
Hey, I got one question for you too, dog. Was
yeah.
this for
What's up?
Playboy Cardi, or was this for Young Thug tonight?
This is for Playboy Cardi, Young Thug, and Nav tonight.
Oh my goodness. Well, way to go, dog. No, I'm proud of you, man. Big
Yeah,
sweep this week
thank you,
for you.
Brandon.
Well, thank you, Bransky. I'm sorry, I'm a little speechless. I have no idea what just happened, but thank you so much for coming in, Bransky. Really
Of
appreciate it, and
course.
congratulations on the win.
Yes, thank you, Alex. Have a good one.
I feel really old right now. All right, we're going to be bringing in our second position right now. Driver who seemed to be on a similar strategy to Bransky, but made a crucial decision at the end of the race that eventually didn't end up working out. Jacob Manning, you ran a fantastic race tonight, but sadly it didn't work out right at the end. Tell us about how your night went other than that.
Well, it was good. It was a fun setup to drive. I don't know how we got it or where it's from, but it was definitely really fun. It was extremely loose, especially at the beginning. And I struggled with that a little bit when we were in the pack because everyone else was just trying to run hard and I was trying to save. And that kind of got the best of me. But I ended up somehow getting back by them with luck of just how it went. And I kind of took off from there, tried to stay with Bransky. I got out in front of him on that green flag pit stop, and I don't understand how he got the run to get below me like he did, but he did, and he got by me, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just save my tires and get back by him. And every time I got the run, there was just nothing I could do. I'd throw it into the corner, and he would throw it in there too and just drive right by me back on the outside. So I don't know how he was doing it. He's a wheelman. He's good at what he does. Bransky's on it right now. He's on fire. So, I mean, congrats to him on the win. He definitely deserved it. I wouldn't say I deserved it or anyone else did. I got caught up in the fuel game at the end, which is how that happened. I was just trying to take fuel only on that last stop, and he took 2 tires and fuel. So, beat me by miles. I'm still a little bit confused on that, but it happened, and Elliott was only, 3-4 seconds behind me. So that just proves how big strategy is, especially somewhere here like Las Vegas where grip is such a big thing. I should have known, I guess, but man, good win him. Good third place by Elliott. Definitely deserved. And I wouldn't have rather finished second place to anyone else. I mean, Bransky's on it right now. So, I mean, congrats to him and their team on getting it done.
I mean, you answered most of the questions I was ready to ask you, so I mean, thank you. You made my job a little bit easier, but you missed out on one question I was going to ask you. You had some fantastic long run pace versus pretty much the entire field. If it wasn't for Bransky, you probably had the best long run pace of the field. So tell us how you do that.
It's all about saving tires, and that's where I was on the first run, where I thought it was going to be a big deal, and then it wasn't directly at first. But once me and Bransky got all the way out there on that strategy where we pitted just a lap earlier before most of everyone else, if not everyone else, we got so far out, they didn't have our draft that saving tires was a big thing. And we started gaining seconds on them. So I was just trying to save tires behind him. And I mean, even with the dirty air, I somehow did. It was extremely hard behind him. I was moving all over the place. I could tell at the end of the run, he started moving up with me to try and block me, give me his dirty air. And it was not very fun, I would have to say. Getting that dirty air, it makes you tight, makes you want to hit the wall. I believe that happened to Zachary Henry, who got 4th. I passed him, and he was about to get a run, and I just slid up in front of him. He got tight and went up and hit the wall. I mean, it's so crucial here to stay out of the dirty air, and I was trying everything I could, but I mean, in the end, it just wasn't enough. So that just shows that, Bransky knows what he's doing. He's definitely the guy to beat, especially in this car with this package. So I guess I just got to learn from that and move forward.
Well, before we send you out here, we got to ask you the one question so that everybody perks up their ears to listen. Who do you have to thank for this race tonight?
I'll throw it out to you guys, Alex and Jeff, and I'm not sure if Barkuski was helping tonight, but if he was, to him too, everyone who makes the broadcast happen. I mean, it's cool that people can come on here and watch this, and watch us come out here. Obviously, we don't have the highest car count in the world, but it's still fun to come out here and race with these guys, and fun to know that we're being broadcasted and we're on the spot, and we got to make these good decisions to make ourselves look good, and not be doing anything too silly. So, obviously, extreme thanks to you guys, and then also Chris Heller for making this possible for me. For a while I was gone, and out of this league in general, and I some other things fell out, and I had availability, and I asked him, and he was like, yeah, welcome anytime. So I mean, obviously, extreme thank you to him and Barkuski, the other team owner, for making it possible for me to even come out here tonight. And obviously I was there on Tuesday as well, because of them. So huge thanks to them too.
Thank you for coming in, Jacob Manning, and congratulations on your finish tonight.
Thank you, Alex.
Alrighty, and a driver that was hoping for a strategy to be a little bit stronger for the race tonight, we're going to be dragging in our third place finisher. Best of the fuel savers was Elliott Henderson. You come away with a third place finish trying to run long on fuel, but it just didn't seem to be the strategy tonight. Were you aware of that coming into the event, or was there a plan to do this strategy going into it?
No, I mean, we were 2 laps at a good, we were 2 laps up on everybody else at the end of the first run, and then I just didn't factor in the fact that I'm not going to have draft a second run, and then it's just going to go to darkness and be faster later on. So it just turned into like we were losing way too much time basically, and I kind of wish I would have flopped the strategy, but I already lost so much time at the start. Like I don't think I was making up that 6 seconds from the initial run that I lost. So it sucks, but we came back, finished third. I'll take that. Nice podium, and I don't think that we were going to finish anywhere else from where we were. I mean, Manning and Bransky were pretty much class of the field. With the draft, we may have been able to do something, but we lost so much time on that first run. It was just that was a bed that we made at that point.
Now, I'm curious to wonder now, if you had the option to choose the other strategy, do you feel you had the pace to run with these guys and make passes for the lead and try and win this race using that?
Oh yeah, I mean we started 7th or 8th, and between the issue of Brandon White at the beginning, we lost a little bit of ground and stuff. So I feel like we had the pace to get up there. I was overdriving my car in the day, but I feel like at night I'm way better at this track because it's easier to conserve tire, and like it's not as hard on the tire. So I feel like if I would have flipped my strategy and just gone with them, I probably would have been better off. But you know, I saw a hole with pit strategy, and you also assume maybe you might get that caution with 2 or 3 laps to go, and then these guys either don't have a set of tires or they have only 2 tires left or something, and then you've got another chance, just like Iowa happened with us. But um, maybe we just need to revert back to normal strategies because it didn't work for us at Iowa and it didn't work here tonight.
Well, you may have been bit by the strategies tonight, but you still came away with a third place finish after a little bit of mess. Now, before we start asking for who you wish to thank, I do want to bring up a little bit of a thing that happened a bit earlier in the race between you and Zachary Henry after Zachary Henry got loose. How was your car affected by the damage from that incident?
I really don't know, and I mean, I hope he doesn't feel bad or anything. I don't really know what that is. I think I was too close to him, and it got him really out of shape, or we were too low on the track or something. We're just sitting there conserving fuel, and you know, when you're doing that, it's hard to know how much he's going to back off the corner. Because I have the mindset of what I want to do with the throttle, but I'm also not going to just drive around him. It's that crappy scenario of like I'm going to lift and stay behind him, whatever he does. We just came off the corner and he got really loose and thought he was just going to gather it up, but I couldn't really go to the outside because I think Heller and Bransky and those guys were coming on the outside lane. So I just kind of stayed where I was, and unfortunate end is I needed to turn him across my nose to continue on, but I think he rebounded to fourth or anything anyway, so it wasn't a huge loss for him. But yeah, I don't think it affected my car a ton. It may have slowed me down, may have actually cost me fuel overall because I needed to stay in the gas a little bit more. But overall, it didn't do much, and I don't think it played any type of factor to us finishing any better than where we were running anyway.
Well, either way, things happen and races get a bit messy, but you had a very clean green race tonight. And you came away with a third place position. So who do you have to thank for that finish?
Yeah, as always, guys back at the shop. The teammates, Nicholson, Bransky. I'm proud that Bransky was able to put one away this season. Hopefully, Nicholson can get one, and I, if all 4 or 5 of us end up in victory lane, I know Austin ran really well tonight. It'd be awesome to see all of us win an individual race this season. Of course, I said I want to try to finish this one with 10 wins total in the series, so that requires me to get 4 more here, which I don't know if that's looking too well, but we'll go off to Chicagoland and we'll see how that goes. But thanks to all my teammates and everybody that keeps showing up every week and makes this series what it is. Thanks to Chris Heller and Brandon Barkowski for running it, Sam Hoff, Eric Kepf, everybody involved in the admin side, Jeff Johnson, and RJ Williams, that make Great Lakes what it is. It's a solid league and it's a fun league to run, and we get a lot of solid competition, even though the car counts in the Cup Series haven't really been perfect this year. We'll try to fix that for next year and for the rest of the season and move forward with it. And thanks to you guys, FRN, and everybody that helps out with the broadcast. This stuff has really come a long way. And I know tonight probably wasn't the most fun thing after, Iowa was a blast, but this probably wasn't very interesting or fun to watch. But, hopefully we can go put on a show at Chicagoland and give you guys something to really, really scream and yell about.
Well, we had a great time figuring out the strategies for tonight. It was driving us crazy thinking somebody wasn't going to be able to win the race or who was going to be able to. So you guys made it interesting. You may not have thought so, but that was a fun watch for us in the booth. So thank you for coming in, Elliott, and congratulations on the finish.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good night.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll close out our interviews for tonight. Let's try and go over the finishing order here. Jacob Bransky's going to win the race here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. 10 seconds over second place, Jacob Manning. Elliott Henderson's going to close out in third. Zachary Henry comes away with a fourth place position after the incident earlier in the race. Hunter Madalinas battles back to fifth. Austin Moore, sixth. Brandon White, seventh. Christopher Heller somehow comes away with an 8th place finish after his struggles tonight. Nathan Nicholson, who was doing a clutch fuel-saving strategy, comes away 9th, and Scott Stewart rounds out the top 10. Right coming to the end of this field here, Lewis Woodall finishes 11th, William Barbagelata 12th, Ty Aiken and Matthew Daniels round out our field for tonight. Right before we close out broadcast, let's try and get a bit of a schedule going up so that we could see where we're going at next week, because Las Vegas Motor Speedway was fun, but we're going to be ready to go to Chicagoland, I believe, next week, and that'll be just as much of a blast as here. I'd say almost better. So what do you think about that one, Bransky or Barkowski?
Too many skis. No, Chicagoland is a fantastic racetrack, and this is going to be our first time going there in the Cup Series. I don't believe we've ever actually raced a GLCS race there. Obviously, trucks have gone there a few times, so it's going to be really, really interesting. And if it's anything like this with the setup we ran tonight, I think we're going to be in for a pretty decent show.
All right, well, make sure you tune in next Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the Flatout Racing Network for that race, because that ought to be a blast. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in for the race tonight. It was a fun one, full of a lot of strategy, and I personally really enjoyed it, and thank you for coming in to watch.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.